You're listening to This Week in America with Rick Bratton.
Welcome back, everybody. This Week in America, website thisweekinamerica.us. Great to have you with us on the program. As mentioned, Nikola Kent is with us on the program today, an actor, internet and technology entrepreneur. He has a recurring role in the critically acclaimed Showtime series Ray Donovan. We'll talk about that. He recently completed production in Italy and the independent feature film The Return. Nick left Yugoslavia when he was 17 years old, learned English by watching American television shows like Beverly Hills 90210, Melrose Place, and Party of Five. Attended Harvard with a full scholarship, majoring at the top of his class in computer science. He moved to L.A., worked for IBM, then stayed in the tech world to launch his own company. Nikola is co-founder and chairman of the web design and development company Coplex, an award-winning multi-million-dollar interactive agency. He's the founder and managing partner of an internet consulting group as well, and he's with us on This Week in America. Nikola Kent is our guest. Nick, welcome to the program. It's great to have you with us.
Well, thank you, Rick. It's great to be here.
You say that you do pretend by day and software architect by night. This is quite a career that you've got going here.
Yes, absolutely. It's acting has sort of been always a passion for me, but growing up in Yugoslavia at the time when I did, there was really not a lot of chances for that to happen. So it's sort of been a roundabout way to get there. The war started in Yugoslavia in 1992. I was just a kid then, and I'm luckily at the time we had American television, and I learned a lot watching TVs, and so I got this crazy idea to go to America and start a new life.
Yeah, you come over here when you were 17 and had, a host family when you got here. What was that experience like? I mean, I'm sure you had all these preconceived ideas of what America was like by watching these television programs that ended up teaching you English. What was it like when you actually got here?
It's very interesting. I mean, I obviously, you watch the shows, and shows like Beverly Hills 90210 and Melrose Place have a very specific view of what America is like. And so first time I got a call from the agency saying, they found me a family, and the family was in Minneapolis. And I'm like, oh, I sort of know what that's like because, the characters of the show are supposedly from Minneapolis. But then I got a call back saying, well, actually, it's not Minneapolis, it's Minnesota, and it's a small town north called Aiken. It's a small town that has about 1,600 people total. So that was a very, very, very unique experience. It was all the way up north. The closest town is Brainerd, if people know from
Oh, yeah, sure,
Fargo.
Sure.
Yeah. So it was actually great. It was completely different from anything I had imagined. Well, one thing I remembered, my host family and everybody else in Minnesota was extremely, extremely nice. And so I was really treated greatly, and I really had an awesome experience, both in my high school with all the kids I met there, and then my host family and all the neighbors and people I just met along the way in Minnesota. It was just a great experience.
And then you get the full scholarship to Harvard. How did that come about? Was this something, studying computers, was this something that was a dream of yours?
I mean, at the time, I just had $200 in my pocket, and when I first got there, and I did not know what was going to happen, and I had no idea where I was going to go next, and even the only thing I wanted was to somehow managed to traverse the country and end up in L.A. But it was a tricky thing. I literally just picked schools that could actually have financial aid for foreign nationals, and at the time, and I just applied a whole bunch of them and studied hard, I guess, and I guess a lot of luck. I'm not really quite sure to this day. People ask me, how did you manage to get in? And so I think it's a combination of a lot of factors, but luck, good grades, and it's just random to a certain degree. And then sciences were always good when growing up, and I felt sciences were an easy fit for me to finish and get a job and hopefully, start taking care of my family back home and getting a career going in the States.
Nikola Kent is our guest on This Week in America, actor, internet, and technology entrepreneur. We're talking about his start coming over at age 17 from Yugoslavia. After college, you went to work, moved to L.A., went to work for IBM, but decided you really wanted to get out and do something on your own. Talk about that experience. You've got, I'm sure, a solid career with IBM, but you really wanted to get out and sort of explore and set up something on your own. You wanted to be an entrepreneur.
Yes, absolutely. I remember my mom saying, basically looking at me going, are you nuts? It's just like, why would you do that? But, it was the early 2000s, and it was the dot-com era had started. Internet was, Google was just getting started. Everybody was getting started, and I was just, I'm always thinking about the next thing. So I was sitting at IBM. It was great. It was a great consulting job, but at the same time, it was just not. I felt like I was not learning enough. I was not, using up all of my potential. So I decided to give it all up and work with a small company in Pasadena. It's an incubator that starts all these crazy companies. At the time, they even started a company that was going to put rovers on the moon, and you were going to, rent time on the internet and drive a rover on the moon. Did not happen, but it was really great, and it was a great environment, and I just jumped into that company and learned a lot. And after that, I decided to open something on my own, and so I partnered with a friend in LA, and we started a company that basically helps businesses get online and put their products online. And that was basically the majority of my professional career.
Well, and that business, you say you do things a little bit differently. You have what you call an agile approach. Talk about that, because a lot of companies at that time were getting involved in computer sciences, getting involved in the internet, websites, applications, that type of thing. What did you bring to the table that you thought, okay, I think we can do this differently, and I think we can actually do this better?
Well, yeah, there's a lot of models in terms of how projects are done, and I'm not really sure if your listeners would even appreciate listening to all this, because it gets kind of boring, but that's what we thought. Like, it just gets kind of boring, and the client comes to us with requirements, and we have project managers who kind of like made a nice little flow chart of how things are going to happen, and inevitably it never ends up being that way. So we decided, well, maybe the best thing to do is to give our employees the ability to actually make their own decisions. And so basically everybody, we created something called, we call them teams. And so every employee, basically, whether it's a graphic designer or a programmer or a project manager or anybody in the senior level, basically participates on the same level with the client, directly with the client, trying to basically make sure that we all do our best to get things done in a fast manner and exceed the expectations of a client. And that was a huge turning point for us, because now everybody was involved, everybody would take responsibility, and really it was a great environment both for the client and for the employees that worked for the company.
Now, am I saying that correctly? Coplex, Coplex?
Yeah, Coplex, yeah.
And Coplex.com is information if you're interested in that. I read over the what you have on the website, the information. I'm not real tech involved. I don't understand all of that, but it sounds like fun working with you guys. It's sort of like we're all in this together. We're all going to. This is not mysterious. We're going to take you along for the ride as well. And it's a great concept, because everybody, the client and everybody in your team, is in working for the same goal.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the idea. It's just like giving people the freedom to. The most important thing for me has always been, it's like one of the ideas we had starting the company was like, let's get an award that we're the best company to work for. And so let's make everything else secondary. And I think that's really a good goal in life in general. If you were going after something that's going to make you happy day to day, financials are going to come. Initially when I first came to the country, I was, the war was going on, and my family was struggling. And so that was the initial goal was, okay, let's make sure my sister goes to school and my parents are taken care of. But after that, the question is what makes you really happy. And for me, working with people makes me happy. Creating stuff and pretending on a TV set,
yes.
That's what makes me happy. Yeah.
Talk about what it's like. 17 years living there, and you just talked about the war going on and all the conditions back there. Does it make you even more grateful for the success that you have here in the country? We tend to take so many things for granted. It's like every day we go out and life is good for a lot of people. Does it help you really put things in perspective that it wasn't that long ago when life was pretty miserable and we didn't know if we were even going to be alive the next day?
No, absolutely. It's very interesting. I mean, for me, being 17, I had a pretty safe upbringing and didn't have any. You never even had to think about it, and all of a sudden, one day, everything changes. So then coming to America was a truly eye-opening experience. I mean, it truly is. It truly is the land of opportunity. I feel like I always tell people, back home or people in Europe in general. I mean, it doesn't really matter at this point. The economy is in such a turmoil everywhere you go. I think whether you live in Western Europe or Eastern Europe, you're kind of in the same boat. But I feel like when people ask me what's the difference between Europe and the States, I always say in the States, I think if you work hard, you're certain to make something happen. That's for sure. So I think that a lot of times what people take for granted is the size of the country and the stability that it provides. And I think that's the number one thing about America, and for me, my experience here.
Nikola Kent, our guest on This Week in America. The website for all the information on Nick is thisweekinamerica.us. Mentioned actor, internet technology, entrepreneur. Let's talk about the pretend part of your life. Ray Donovan, talk about your character there. You've got some intense scenes coming up, a lot that you share with John Voight, and we're looking forward to the season 3 finale coming up on Ray Donovan. Talk about what that experience has been like. I mentioned recurring roles, so this is something that you've really been able to get into. What's it been like?
It's on one hand, it's been a dream come true. On the other hand, it's been really nerve-wracking. I remember the first time, my first scene showing up on set, and there's John Voight standing next to you, and you're just supposed to go. And I was really, really nervous. Of course, I didn't let anybody know. I was just keeping it inside.
Yes.
But then I looked at him, and he said a few words to me, and made a few jokes and started shadow boxing me, and then I realized, he's a really, really cool guy. And as a matter of fact, throughout the show, he's been really a great mentor, and so it helped me, kind of learn the tricks of the trade and kind of realize how things go. And it truly was, once past the first few times on the set, you realize that it's a huge collaborative machine, sort of like working for a company where everybody's taking their part and trying to make the show better and trying to make the scenes better. But yeah, some of the scenes were sort of violent. That's the type of the show. It's not necessarily my cup of tea, but that's why I say pretend by day. And you're kind of doing the stuff and doing the moves. I'm not really quite sure if it's going to look good, but then that's where the editors come into play and they polish it all up and make it look even better than you thought you did.
Well, it's interesting how your mind works as you're describing that you're on the scene for a movie. I mentioned the independent movie that we'll talk about.
Yeah.
And you're sort of learning just the whole interaction with the crew and the cast and the whole thing, and you take that back to your tech life and you're able to benefit from that.
Yeah, because for some reason, I felt like going on set, you have your lines, obviously, you read about what's going to happen. And my expectation of myself was showing up on there, knowing exactly what I'm going to do, and kind of being prepared. But of course, in the back of your mind, you don't really know where you're going to be or how it's going to be set up. But the great experience, the great relieving fact was coming there and looking at somebody like John Voight or the showrunner or the writers, the directors, going like, well, we're here. Let's try to figure it out. How about we put this here? Does that work for you? And you're like, well, yeah, kind of maybe this is better. This is more awkward. And so it's really a great collaborative process, and that's what I think kind of took the edge off and the pressure off. And then you realize, well, the more you collaborate and the more you play along, the better it is for everybody, actually.
What are the benefits of the recurring role? I would think that, wow, this is not just a one-shot guest starring deal where I'm in, I want to walk away, the character goes away, that's the end. You can actually grow and develop with the character. I would think that from an acting standpoint, that has to be quite beneficial. Yes,
it's really, really great. I mean, when I first read for it, initially they said it was going to be a one-off thing and potentially recurring, but it really would depend on where the show went and how the writers felt, the story would go. And so, yes, initially it was one episode, then I got called back for the second and the third and fourth, and it kept going and going and going. And so I became part of a storyline. There's a few storylines in this season that are going to be character, and that's one of the storylines. So you don't really quite know. And the thing is that the writers are also writing maybe 2 episodes ahead. So they're watching what's happening, and they're kind of modifying as they go along where all the characters are going to go along. So it's for an actor, it's exciting because you don't really quite know how far along you're going to get. But at the same time, like I said, the more you participate, the more you play along, you get to know people. It just becomes a great process. And then, sure enough, good things happen.
Ray Donovan, of course, on Showtime, Sunday nights, 9 o'clock, and repeated numerous times during the week after that. I'm sure on demand you'll be able to watch it, and just critically acclaimed, one of the highest-rated programs in the history of Showtime. And I mentioned the movie that you just completed production on, The Return, which was shot in a castle outside Florence. Talk about that. This is based on The Shining?
Yeah, so this is a small budget film that sort of an homage to The Shining. And there's this incredible castle outside Florence, and it has something like 40 rooms. It was built by its count back in the 60s, and it was sort of served as a hotel in the 80s, and then half of it was renovated into these like super ornate rooms. One is more ornate than the other, and then half of it just kind of dilapidated, falling apart. And it's just sitting there, and has been sitting there for maybe 3 decades. And it's this majestic castle surrounded in woods, and so this director had an idea to actually do a film where, a group of people get invited back to the castle to get an inheritance from somebody, and then strange things start to happen, and then whether they're hallucinating or not, or what's happening in this castle is the storyline. But the rooms themselves are some are so creepy, and some are so beautiful. You don't really quite know yourself. I just remember a few times when I was by myself walking around, getting lost in some of the rooms. I just felt like I did not want to necessarily be there. So, but it was a great experience. Yeah. And
you'll see some. I think these are the pictures I saw on Instagram, right? The pictures of the castle.
Yes, that's the castle, correct.
And you go to Instagram.com/Nikola Kent and see some of the pictures there of some of the work that Nick has done. A minute or so left in the program, and you are big on fitness and an avid athlete. Talk about how you find time for all of that. So many people, we're not even close to the same schedule you are, but we're able to, okay, I should work out tonight. I'm not going to. I need to watch my diet, but I'm not going to. Yeah. Give us a few tips. How do you find time to stay in shape like that?
Well, I'm sort of a hacker, so I always trying ways to cheat the system. I don't like to diet, and I actually don't like to work out. But so I always feel like less is more, And so a lot of people like to do cardio and to do a long-term cardio. But I think if people are trying to lose weight, the best way to do it is to look up something called high-intensity interval training. It only takes 15 minutes. And basically, you train really hard for a minute, then you rest for 2 minutes, and hard for a minute. Whether it's running or being on a treadmill or using weights, and then in 20 minutes you're done, and you just leave. And it has a lot more benefits than doing a steady rate cardio. So I'm always trying to find ways to. It helps me alleviate stress. So that's the main reason why I go. Of course, there's other benefits to it, but I try to not, spend a lot of time. 25 minutes, 30 minutes max. After that, my mind starts to go all over the place, and then the workout is not so great.
It's interesting because you're not one of these that obsesses about it. You just sort of do it minimal amount of time, get the maximum out of it, and move on to something else then.
Exactly. That's my goal, yes.
Nikola Kent has been with us on This Week in America, actor, internet and technology entrepreneur. We'll be watching Ray Donovan, the movie coming out, The Return. And, of course, by the time we talk to you next time, you'll probably have a third business that you've started out there. So thank you so much for being with us on the program. Great to have you with us. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Rick. Thank you very much. It was awesome.
You're listening to This Week in America, website thisweekinamerica.us.